conversation. So, welcome back, man. As I stated in the intro, today's episode is going to be short, brief, and straight to the point. Going to be just talking about Destiny and I's journey to marriage counseling, what it's been like for us, what we've liked, what we haven't liked. Has it worked for us? So, we're just going to be talking about that. So, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, before Destiny and I got married, we did the premarital counseling, which was amazing. If you are dating, you are engaged, I implore you all to seek out some marriage counselors, do some premarital counseling. There were some questions that we did not think to ask, but our marriage counselors, they sat down with us. We read a couple of books. We talked about things that Destiny and I probably wouldn't have asked. Things such as, how often do you want to have sex? What are your expectations around cooking each week? How many days do you want to have sex? How many kids do you want? The kids thing, we knew exactly, that both of us wanted kids. We talked about us wanting kids, but we never dove deep into how many kids do you actually want? Like, what's the time frame? What's the span between the ages, the range? So it was just, we both love kids. We want kids. But just going to premarital counseling, that was one of the subjects that we kind of dove deeper in as, what are you looking for? What are your expectations centered around kids? Another thing that we didn't talk about, during our courting and dating stage was, how are we going to raise our kids? And that's one of the things when you get married, you're merging two cultures into one. So Destiny was raised a certain way, and my culture, we were raised a completely different way, even though we both are African Americans. It's just the intricate details of each family. Each family is different. So the way I may want to rear my child, or the way I want to raise my daughter, may not be the exact same. And it comes down to, how are we going to discipline? Who's going to be the disciplinary? Who's going to be the one that's going to, almost like the good cop, bad cop thing, if you will. And I'm air quotations on that. But that's something that we kind of talked about, like, what are our expectations when it comes to discipline? What are our expectations, how we're going to handle, how we're going to make decisions when it comes to our child, Madison now. But I implore you all again to go to marriage counseling premarital counseling, if you're in that dating courting stage. It is amazing. It worked for us. We enjoyed it. We loved our premarital counselors. So again, I implore you all to go to premarital counseling. Now, one of the things that we were, I guess you will say, we were particular on, was continuing premarital counseling. Uh, after we said I do, so that would go into marriage counseling. We did it for a little while, and then it kind of just fell off. Life happened. We were just saying, hey, you know what? We'll try to figure stuff out on our own, which caused a lot of heated fellowship. Just trying to make Destiny see my perspective, and vice versa. Her trying to make me see her perspective, and it was just like, pew, pew, pew. You're saying one thing, I'm saying another thing. So recently here, probably within the last, I want to say last 2.5 months, 2 months or so, we just had some heated fellowship, just, seeing things differently. Again, she has her perspective, I have my perspective. But we both are committed to the marriage, and we said, you know what? Divorce is not an option. Let's try to go and find a marriage counselor that can be, a listening ear. So for us, we found a marriage counselor. We've been going to marriage counseling on a weekly basis, and it has been extremely helpful. It has opened up lines of communication for us, just to have that person there who is, not basically unbiased to our perspectives and the things that we're going through. They're just there to listen and to help us articulate and navigate those, misperspectives, if you will. So marriage counseling for us, man, has been extremely, extremely beneficial within these last 2 months. We bought a new house. We have Madison. I'm working, Destiny's working. So just a strain of life, man. It's just like all at once. Everything is just boom, right there in your lap. And so us trying to figure out, how do we navigate these uncharted waters for us? How do we have conversations without getting frustrated with one another. And I found in my marriage, and especially, just in the lines of communication, one of the things that frustrated me in the past was I'm trying to explain myself, but it just seemed like my wife is not understanding. And the same for her. She's trying to explain herself, but it just seemed like I'm not understanding. So what the marriage counselor again has been able to do is just kind of take what I'm saying and rephrase it to where Destiny is receptive and understanding to it. Again, for me, it's like I want you to understand my perspective so bad that I get frustrated and then we get into a heated fellowship because what I'm saying, I feel like you should be able to understand what I'm saying. And the same thing for Destiny. What she's saying, she gets frustrated. It's like, do you not hear what I'm saying? And so, one of the things that I implore all of our listeners and followers to do is, take time to try to listen with understanding. Take time, even if you are in those heated fellowships, take time to take a step away and say, you know what, I hear what you're saying. Even though I may not understand it, I do want to understand what you're saying. So let's just take a break, come back to this conversation, and figure out how we can articulate and communicate through the heated fellowship with the intent to understand. Um, the marriage counselor has given us so many tools, and you would think communication is easy, but oftentimes it's not. Again, she sees things her way, I see things my way. Uh, I may say something and have a certain level of expectation that I don't articulate to her, and so just hypothetically, and this is just a random scenario, if I say, hey, Destiny, I want you to come in the living room with me. In her mind, she just heard come in the living room. In my mind, I'm thinking, I want you to come in the living room with me, watch a movie, and spend quality time. And one of the things have found with Destiny is be clear and concise. Don't leave any room for error. So it's just taking the time to slow the conversation down and to articulate how she needs me to articulate so she can understand. And it's a work of art. I mean, it's been a work of art. I mean, like I said, the marriage counselor has given us some tools. When we get in those conversations where she has her perspective, I have my perspective. Like, hey, slow the conversation down. What is it that you need from me? Like, what are your expectations? What are you looking for me to say? Or what do you hear me saying? And that has been one of the biggest things. Like, what do you hear me saying? Because I may be saying that the room is red, but you may hear something completely different because you're taking in what I'm saying, you're filtering it through, your feelings, your emotions, your mental, and you may be taking it again and just adding something to it and not taking what I'm saying at face value. Or, Destiny sometimes may hear what I'm saying but not fully understand it because again she's filtered it through her mind, maybe added some stuff onto it, and I've done it too. Like, hey, you said this, but I took it as you meant that. So we had Beth McCord on show. She did the Enneagram, and one of the things she talked about was assumicide. And so what I just described, Destiny is assuming that I mean something, or I'm assuming that she means something, and it's like, no, that's not actually what I meant. So back to marriage counseling, man. Marriage counseling has been extremely helpful for us within these past couple of months. For anybody that is looking to get married, if you're again dating, you're in that engagement stage, or your fiance, again, I implore you all to go and seek out premarital counseling. Ask those tough questions. Have those courageous conversations. If you are married, continue marriage counseling. And it's something, again, like I said, we set out and we wanted to do after we got married, but life happened, the monotony of work, coming home cooking, all that kind of stuff. So marriage counseling kind of just got pushed by the wayside. But make marriage counseling a priority. Even if things are going good, make marriage counseling a priority because there's always something that you can work on in your marriage. where there's communication, where there's spending time with each other, where there's just kind of honing in on, helping each other achieve your goals. Whatever the case may be for you in your marriage, I believe that there's always something that we as spouses can work on, we as individuals can work on to have a better marriage. Um, I'm loving marriage counseling. I'm getting ready to go to individual counseling, just to kind of explore and talk through some things that um, maybe childhood trauma or things, trying to figure out, okay, why do I think the way I think? Why is it that when Destiny and I get into a heated fellowship, why do I revert back to X, Y, and Z? Or why do I automatically assume A, B, C, or D? So just kind of navigating those waters, because again, like I said, we both are committed to the marriage. And so we want to make it work. Not saying that it's not working, but we want to make it work. We want to find those tips and tricks on how to have a better relationship with one another. Ultimately, how to be the best versions of ourselves so we can be the best versions for the other person. So as I said, man, this is going to be short, sweet, straight to the point. It's just a little brief synopsis of what marriage counseling has been like for us. If you like the shirt, I Love My Wife, make sure you click the link right here. Go over to www.morelovecxn.com/merch. I just butchered that, but use this link right here. If you're listening to the podcast over on your favorite podcasting platform, click the link in the show notes, and you can go over and purchase one of our shirts. Also, man, if you all enjoy this content, please head over to our Patreon page. For just as little as $1 a month, you can support the More Love Connection podcast. We would love for you to become an official member of the More Love Nation tribe, as well as one of our sponsors for the More Love Nation podcast, or More Love Connection podcast. So go over to Patreon. You see the link down there. Again, for as little as $1 a month, you can support the More Love Connection podcast. So, man, like I said, short, sweet, straight to the point. Make sure y'all check back next week. We have some amazing guests lined up for you. I cannot wait for you all to hear these marriage stories, millennial marriage stories, hear how these people met. We have some marriage coaches coming onto the show. We have some international people coming onto the show. We have some world travelers coming onto the show. I ain't gonna give you too much, but make sure you all subscribe to the More Love Connection podcast. Check us out on your favorite podcasting platform, as well as YouTube. Holla at a player when you see him in the street.